loving, faithful God to us. But we have to recognize that many times we let you down, and that our loyalty seems to be to the world at times. Would you help call us back? Would you help us to remember whose it is that we are, to whom we belong, that we're your children, that we're royalty? Would you help us to act like it? Would you help us to represent you to the world and love the world in your name? Pray this in Christ. We're in 2 John. 2 John is one of the shorter books of the Bible. It's a letter that John wrote. Some people call it more of a postcard because it's so short. It's 13 verses. But in it, John addresses a very important question. You come in and you're taught, or you get your scriptures and you're taught, or you go to Sunday school class and you're taught. What do you do when somebody teaches you something that's not right? What do you do with false teaching? So to answer that question, John's going to deal with two major subjects. He's going to talk about the truth when it comes to teaching. We need to hold out the truth. He's going to talk about love when it comes to relationships. We need to love one another. So we're 2 John, sorry. I'm going to start in the first verse, and I'll give you a little update just as we start. The elder that we're going to talk about is, of course, John writing as an elder. And he's going to talk about a letter to a lady and her children. He's talking about the church and the people that are part of the church. And so we talk about having sister churches at times. That terminology comes from his letters here, where he talks about the church being a lady and all the other churches being sisters to her, and all the children of one lady and the children of another lady being mutual family. And so that's where we get that stuff. So let's read. The elder. To the lady chosen by God and to her children, whom I love in the truth, and not only I, but also those who know the truth. Because of the truth which lives in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and from Jesus Christ the Father's Son will be with us in truth and love. It's going to be great joy to find some of your children walking in the truth, just as the Father commands us. And now, dear lady, I'm not writing a new command, but one we have heard from the beginning. I ask that we love one another. Now, this is love, that we walk in obedience to His commands. As you've heard from the beginning, His commandment is that you walk in love. I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is a deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch out that you do not lose what we have worked for, but that you may be fully rewarded. Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God, and whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house or welcome them. Anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked work. I had much to write to you, but I did not want to use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face, so that our joy may be complete. The children of your sister, who is chosen by God, send their greetings. Again, John's writing. He's the elder. The church is the lady, and then we would represent the children, members of the church. So he says it's giving me great joy to find some of your children walking in the truth, just as the Father commanded us. Some of your children walking in the truth. Does that not imply that some of your children are not walking in the truth? I mean, why is it that some of us are not walking in the truth? Could it be that we haven't taught the truth clearly? Maybe some of us don't understand what the truth is. Maybe I've been neglectful in what I've done, or some other teacher or preacher has been neglectful to teach the full truth. People have asked why preachers don't preach a lot of hellfire and brimstone kinds of sermons anymore. Well, because a lot of people didn't like them, so they quit coming to church when you preach them. And we don't want you to come to church, so we quit preaching them. Or why do preachers talk about alcohol and gambling and sex and stuff like they used to? Well, because some of you drink and gamble and have sex, and so we don't want to turn you off, and so we don't preach on those things. Part of the reason is because it seems kind of legalistic. I mean, there are some limits to those things. God created a lot of that stuff, and so there's a time and a place for it. And we didn't want to offend you, trying to draw those lines for you, because you might draw the lines in a different place where I draw the line, and so if I draw it differently, then you get offended and you're upset. So we don't talk about those things. And we just hope the best. And as you're probably aware, the best rarely happens. Instead, we get alcohol abuse and drunk driving and people behind on their rent and teenagers getting pregnant and domestic violence. Because nobody's telling people that those things are wrong. And yet, I understand some of those things aren't expressly forbidden in Scripture. You know, drinking's okay, getting drunk's bad. Sex is great, but not if you're not married to the person. So there are times and places I understand that. But what kind of lessons are we passing on? Do we really know where the lines are? Have we been clear on here's what's permissible and here's what's not? And have we modeled that for the next generation? When we were in Iowa, one of our deacons had a son who moved in with his girlfriend. Now, he was raised in the church, seemed to be fairly smart, but when we confronted him and said, well, you know, you shouldn't be having sex with her, you're not married, and he's like, well, I didn't know that. Well, what do you mean you didn't know that? And so we had to go through and have a little Bible study. A lot of you like to drink, but at what point does it become too much? I know people will sit down with beer and their kids will come in and say, hey, Dad, can I have a beer? And they'll say, well, no, you can't. You're not old enough. And the kid's learning what? I heard some lady yelling at her kid the other day at the store. Kid wanted to get a tattoo. Mom said, no, you're not old enough. You can't get a tattoo. And she's got tattoos all up and down. What kind of example are we teaching when we say one thing and do another? Again, I understand the Scripture doesn't forbid stuff, and we want to do it. Do your kids understand that? Are we teaching the truth? Or are we kind of letting them pick it up from what we do? See, these are things that need to be taught and laid out, not assume that people will figure them out. Relativism has taken over our nation. All truth is relative to the situation, so what's true for you may not be true for me. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Until your opinion conflicts with my opinion, then you're not entitled to your opinion anymore. That kind of thing leads to discrimination. We want to permit that, so okay, we'll draw the line there, no discrimination. Well, unless I'm the one doing the discriminating because I don't like you, and then it's okay. Who decides when truth is relative and when it isn't? We cry out against injustices like the Nazis are exterminating the Jews. Oh, that's a bad thing. Really? They didn't think so. They thought they were right. Are they not entitled to their opinion? So we sit there and we say it's all relative. You can't tell me what to think, and I can't tell you. We're not going to tell each other where to draw the lines, and so we're all going to do our own thing. And then we run into this kind of injustice, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's so horrible." And we're like, "What happened?" Well, nobody had the guts to draw a line, and I'm not sure Jesus did. He said, "Love one another. Love the Lord your God by our heart, soul, mind, and strength." Where's the lines in there? What constitutes love? If I see a person in need and do not share my belongings with them, I don't love that person. But what if I don't have enough to share? Or what if I already know 3 other people sharing with them? Then is it okay? Where do I draw the lines? And then the Bible's not real specific on that because Jesus says, let the Spirit lead. So it's okay to let the Spirit lead, and then the Spirit leads you to do one thing and me to do another, and we're in conflict. And what objective truth do we have to go back to and say, I'm right or you're right? How do you determine what is true and what's not true? Other religions say their beliefs are true. We say ours are true. Relativism says, well, both can be true. Those guys can believe that thing, you guys believe that thing, and everybody going your merry way. Except that what you believe says that these people are wrong and need to be dealt with, and they say that what your belief is wrong and you need to be dealt with, and so we start dealing with each other, and that leads to all kinds of wars and conflicts. And relativism seems in conflict with logic itself. If I say there's one God and you say there's no God, we can't both be right. It just doesn't make any logical sense. Either there is or there isn't. I say there's a heaven and a hell. You say, well, there's a heaven but no hell. The other guy says there's no heaven or hell. Well, logically, we can't all be right. But relativism would say, well, just believe whatever you want to believe. In John chapter 8, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So what sets us free? Our opinions? You do your thing, and I'll do mine. We're free to believe whatever we want to believe. No, it says the truth will set you free. There's no relative truth when it comes to claims of Christ in the Scriptures. So we need truth. Which gets us to the other side of the angle of this, I guess. Truth has to be known in order for it to set us free. Just because truth is out there doesn't mean I'm free. The truth is, Christ came to save the world by paying the penalty for our sin. But if you don't know that truth, you can't act on it. So if you don't know Christ came and died for your sins, then truth doesn't set you free. You have to know the truth first. So here in 2 John, verse 4, John says that we've seen some of the people walking in the truth, and it gives them great joy. We need to walk in the truth so that our children and those we influence will walk in the truth as well. The truth wasn't enough. We need to know the truth. The problem is we take that truth and then beat each other over the head with it. I know what's right, you don't. You're wrong, you're scum, you're going to hell. So John goes on. Verse 4 says, I'm happy to hear that some of you have your doctrine correct. You're walking in the truth. Now I'm asking you to love one another. And that's not new, it's an old command, but I'm encouraging you to actually do it. Get your truth right. But once you've got it right, now you've got to love. And here's how you demonstrate love. Be obedient to God. And God's command is, love one another. So demonstrate love for God by being obedient to God's command to love one another. So you want to show God how much you love Him? Oh, we lift up our hands and we sing. That's not what He asks for. That's part of worship. That's part of giving Him worth. But He says, you want to show me how much you love me? Love one another. You want to show God how much you love Him? Love the people around you. And He says, I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Deceivers is a harsh word. He goes on to call them the Antichrist, which, if you go through all the other books and whatnot we've got out there, makes it sound really bad. But there are things going on in the world that are dangerous and deceptive, and they are contrary to Christ. And John says we need to reject it. Don't take them in your house or welcome them. And he's probably talking about people, some of these false teachers, but it isn't not. Could we not apply the same thing to the false teaching? The false teaching is what is deceiving us, leading us astray, and we let that into our house. Is there false teaching in your house? What kind of music are your kids listening to? Do you know? A lot of times you listen to the music and you go, that sounds really cool. And then you look at the lyrics and you go, oh, no, you're not in my house. Or what about the TV shows you're watching? And we like to watch one that's got this anthropologist that goes through the whole thing talking about how there is no God. Or you watch the shows with all the blood and gore and violence. And you think, well, that's not going to affect me.
I didn't watch that stuff. I didn't get to stay up. These guys are like, yeah, I was in third grade. You would stay up and watch that stuff and have nightmares. Well, guess where it came from? Well, it's because Mom let me eat pickles while we were watching. No, we had not eaten pickles. It was a horror show. But we go at blood and guts and gore and the profanity, and we watch it and we eat it up, and we think that's not going to affect us, and yet, my guess is it affects someone in your house and probably everyone. I know my own mind. I've got a good filter, so I don't let it come out of my mouth all the time. But I'm thinking those words. I'm losing my temper. I want revenge. Who's going to determine the moral values in your family? I grew up in the 70s. The Beatles were in the 60s. You remember their song, I Want to Hold Your Hand? We've come a long way since then. They're wanting to hold a lot more than just your hand. With all the movies and video games, people are exposed to more blood and violence than they are in Israel, where kids have to run around with automatic weapons strapped to them because of all the blood that they've seen. And it's all coming right into our homes, spoon-fed through our culture, and we're just going, oh, that's nice. Welcome, come on in. Have a seat. Get comfy. If some sort of noxious cloud were floating down your street, what would you do? Seal off the doors, close all the windows, keep it out. If some predatory thief were raiding homes in your neighborhood, what would you do? Lock the door, maybe 2 locks, put bars on the windows. Yet all this stuff is coming into our house, and we're doing nothing to keep it out. Who's going to teach truth to your family? As Christians, we go out and try to save people, one at a time, sharing our faith, telling them about what Christ has done in our life. But the culture can go out and destroy them hundreds at a time. So at the very least, we can do what John tells us to do. Don't welcome the deceiver into your home. And then John tells us again to love one another. There's the truth out there. You need to obey the truth. You need to love one another. You need to be aware of the deceiver, those bad people out there, those bad teachings, those bad influences. You just got to love one another. And it's so hard for us to find this middle ground. We either want them out of our lives or we want to jump in with them. So how do you jump in? Well, no, I'm not jumping. How do you allow yourself to interact with people who need to know God? Who you need to love in His name without engaging in the stuff they engage in? People can be wrong in their beliefs, sincerely wrong. They think they're right. They're not. What do? And part of what we need to do is to let them tell their stories and find out why they're where they're at. Because I've been through what I've been in my life. I've experienced the things that I've experienced, so it doesn't make any sense that you would do the things you do. But I haven't been through what you've been through. I've not walked in your shoes. And so people say, oh, those horrible Christians and the things that they do. And I'm going, no, we're good people. But I've not been beat down by the people they've been beat down by. So we need to understand what people have been through, what led them to that point. And we need to love them, encourage them. Because we can't teach them the truth until we love them enough that they're willing to listen. So while we're trying to walk in the truth, we show grace to those who are outside of the truth and have bought into the lies, and we teach them, don't condemn them, build relationships with them that give us opportunities to see those teaching moments. It's amazing when you sit down with somebody and ask them what they believe, and they go, oh, I don't believe in God. Well, what do you believe? Well, I believe we just happened. Really? Well, how did this get here? How did that happen? I don't know. The fittest, it doesn't make sense that I have the right to do whatever it takes to survive. And if that means belittling you, or depriving you, or hurting you, Well, no, that's wrong. Okay, where did your moral code come from? When you stop and think about it, saying there is no God and that we're not accountable to anybody else doesn't make any sense. I told you a couple weeks ago, I read an article about a guy that said we need to take God out of religion because spirituality is good, but there can't be a God, there can't be an afterlife. If you take out God in the afterlife, then what basis do you have for treating other people well? I mean, this will make you guys hate me a little bit, I'm sure, but I've told some of you before, my basic character, if I didn't have God, would be I don't have a lot of emotions. And so for me to take somebody out wouldn't be a big deal to me, except to know that that person matters to God. So if there is no God, then I have no reason to let you take up space and precious resources. If you weren't driving your car, my gas prices would be lower. If you weren't breathing my air, the air would be cleaner. So if I take you out of the world, my world will be a better place. So if there is no God, then what value do you have to me? If you talk those things through, people understand. But what they react to is the emotional bile that they've got from people who say, well, I love Jesus, but you're an idiot. And you're going to hell. They need the truth. But they got to have love in order to accept the truth. So John writes a letter, a postcard, whatever. And he sends it out to say, you've got to belong to the truth. And you need to love one another. You think we can do that? As you've heard from the beginning, his command is that you walk in love. Let's pray. Father, we want to know the truth, and I hope that the things that I say are true. That as I teach, you're teaching us the truth. But Father, I pray that these people listening would also be reading their Bibles, and if I'm wrong, they'll correct that. But at the same time, Father, I pray that they never lead our differences, our disagreements don't lead to disputes and fighting. Rather, we do everything out of love. Father, we live in a culture that is so contrary and getting more and more conflicting and at odds with the church. It's not even a disagreement anymore. It's almost war. Father, I recognize that the reason is because people have been treated poorly. It's not even necessarily a lack of truth, but a lack of love. Would you help us to know how those things balance out? As we go out and try to live by the truth, would you help us to be loving? But as we go out and try to be loving, would you help us not to neglect the truth and not to allow the deceiver into our lives and into our homes and to mislead us? So would you help us find truth and love? Like what Jesus taught us when he was here. He always taught the truth. And he always loved. May we be like